Wow. You've really outdone yourself this time.
Yeah.
This is a ton of material on Western occultism.
It is.
From ancient Greece all the way to, like, the 21st century.
That's right. It's a long history.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it goes way back.
So how are we going to tackle all of this? What's the plan for this deep dive?
Well, the main thing that I noticed in looking through all this material is that occultism is often seen as this fringe, spooky kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure.
But these sources show it's been deeply intertwined with mainstream Western thought for centuries.
It's kind of like that weird family recipe that everyone pretends doesn't exist.
Right.
But then, like, secretly makes when no one's looking.
Exactly. It's the rejected knowledge, right?
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
The stuff that's maybe a little too potent for polite company.
So what are some of the core elements of this rejected knowledge? What are we actually talking about here?
I mean, we're talking magic, divination, secret initiations, alchemy, occult, philosophy.
Oh, jabang.
The whole 9 yards, yep.
And it all starts, like, way back in ancient Greece.
Way back.
With the figures like Pythagoras.
Right, Pythagoras.
The guy with the theorem.
Yeah, exactly.
What's math got to do with occultism?
Well, Pythagoras and his school, back in 6th century BCE Crotona, they weren't just mathematicians, they were also mystics.
Oh, interesting.
And they saw numbers as the key to understanding the universe, like a concept that would echo throughout occult history. So they believed that by understanding the mathematical principles behind music or the movements of planets, you could tap into the hidden order of the cosmos.
So it's like cracking the code of the universe through math and music.
Exactly.
That's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah, it's pretty wild.
Yeah.
And that idea of hidden knowledge, that there's more to reality than meets the eye, that's a recurring theme we see throughout all these sources.
Yeah, okay, so it's not all just abstract ideas, right?
Yeah.
There's some practical elements to occultism too.
Oh, absolutely.
Like alchemy.
Oh, yeah. Alchemy is a great example.
Okay.
We have a source here about Miriam the Alchemist, a fascinating figure from 1st century BCE Alexandria.
Miriam the Alchemist.
Yeah, and she's credited with inventing several, key alchemical tools.
Oh, yeah.
Including the bain-marie or double boiler.
Wait, the double boiler, like the thing I used to melt chocolate?
Yeah, that's the one.
That has alchemical origins.
It does. You're kidding me. It's true. Miriam's invention really highlights how occultism wasn't just about esoteric knowledge, but it had practical applications that impacted, everyday life.
Wow.
It's also a great reminder that history is full of these, surprising connections, these little threads that link seemingly totally different fields.
It makes you wonder what other, everyday objects have these hidden occult origins.
Right.
So we've got mystical mathematicians and practical alchemists.
Uh-huh.
What else was brewing in ancient Greece?
Well, around the same time, but over in Mesopotamia, we see the birth of horoscopes in the late 5th century BCE.
Horoscopes. Wow.
Yeah, and what's interesting is they weren't focused on individuals back then. They were focused on predicting the fate of nations.
So no personalized birth charts for those guys.
Nope. I guess predicting the fall of an empire was probably exciting enough.
I guess so.
But that shift from nations to individuals, that's a key development in the history of astrology.
Yeah, it really makes you realize that even something as ancient as astrology, it's gone through these transformations over time.
Absolutely.
It's not static.
And, we can't talk about the intellectual foundations of Western occultism without mentioning Plato.
Plato, the philosopher, what's he got to do with all this?
Well, Plato wasn't, explicitly an occultist.
Okay.
But his ideas, particularly the concept of a world of being beyond our senses, a realm of perfect forms and ideas that had a profound influence on later occult thinkers.
So, this idea that there's a hidden reality beyond the physical world, a source of true knowledge.
That's it. That became a cornerstone of Western occultism.
So Plato was laying the groundwork for this whole tradition of seeking hidden knowledge, exploring the unseen realms.
Exactly. His philosophy provided a framework for understanding the universe and humanity's place in it, a framework that occultists would build upon and interpret in their own unique ways.
It's amazing how these ancient ideas continue to ripple through history.
They really do.
Influencing how we think and understand the world even today.
Yeah.
So we've got the mystical influence of Pythagoras, the practical innovations of alchemy, the evolving practice of astrology, and these philosophical foundations laid by Plato.
Right, it's a lot.
What happens next in this grand narrative of occultism? What's the next chapter?
Well, as Christianity rose to prominence in the Roman Empire, things took a bit of a turn for those who held on to these older, like, pagan ways of thinking.
A turn? Do they have to, like, practice their mystical math and stargazing in secret underground lairs or something?
Well, not quite underground lairs, but our sources do highlight this growing tension between what was considered acceptable knowledge and what was considered dangerous or heretical.
Right, it's that rejected knowledge idea again, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, it's a little too spicy for the mainstream.
Exactly.
Okay.
And a prime example of this tension is the suppression of the Bacchic mysteries in 186 BCE Rome.
The Bacchic mysteries, what were those all about?
So these were rituals dedicated to Bacchus,
Okay.
the god of wine and ecstasy and, well, let's just say revelry.
Okay, sounds fun.
Imagine like a blend of ancient Greek theater, ecstatic dancing, and a lot of wine.
Okay, I can see how that might have raised some eyebrows in ancient Rome.
Yeah.
But why were they seen as a threat? What was so dangerous about a good party?
Well, the Roman authorities saw them as a threat to social order, a potential breeding ground for subversion and chaos. They feared the secrecy surrounding the rituals and the potential to, like, undermine Roman values and authority.
So it was more about the secrecy and the potential for, like, dissent than the rituals themselves. Was it fear of the unknown, or was it something more tangible?
That's a great question, and it's something that runs throughout the history of occultism.
Okay.
What is it about certain types of knowledge that makes people uneasy? Is it the content itself, or is it the way it's shared, the communities it fosters?
That's a good point.
Yeah.
But was Christianity entirely opposed to occultism from the start? Like, was it a complete break?
Interestingly, it wasn't.
Oh.
In the 2nd century CE, we see the rise of Gnosticism, a movement that actually blended elements of Christianity with Greek philosophy and mystical ideas.
Gnosticism.
Right.
The folks who believed in secret knowledge and this cosmic battle between good and evil.
Exactly.
It sounds a little bit like a Dan Brown novel.
It does have that dramatic flair.
It does.
But it's important to remember that for Gnostics, this secret knowledge wasn't just about power or control, it was about liberation. It was about understanding the true nature of reality and escaping the limitations of the material world.
So like a spiritual escape hatch from the mundane world.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the key texts that emerges from this Gnostic milieu is the Corpus Hermeticum.
Corpus Hermeticum.
A collection of writings attributed to this mysterious figure named Hermes Trismegistus.
Hermes Trismegistus. Now that name rings a bell.
Yeah.
Wasn't he like an Egyptian god or something?
He's a fascinating figure who kind of straddles that line between history and myth.
Okay.
The Corpus Hermeticum presents this blend of Greek and Egyptian ideas, emphasizing like the interconnectedness of the universe, the power of the human mind, the pursuit of spiritual enlightenment.
So it's like this mystical instruction manual for unlocking the secrets of the universe.
You could say that.
Yeah.
And these Hermetic texts would go on to have a huge impact on later occultists, particularly during the Renaissance, which saw a renewed interest in all things ancient and esoteric.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
It's like these ancient texts that keep popping up throughout history, like these hidden time capsules full of forgotten wisdom.
They really do.
But speaking of things that were lost, wasn't there a major setback for pagan traditions around this time?
Sadly, there was.
Okay.
In 396 CE, the Eleusinian Mysteries, one of the most important and enduring mystery cults of ancient Greece, were destroyed by invading Visigoths.
The Eleusinian Mysteries,
Yeah.
what were those all about?
They were secret rituals centered around the goddess Demeter and her daughter Persephone,
Okay.
involving initiations, sacred dramas, and a promise of a blessed afterlife. You could think of it as like the ancient Greek equivalent of a spiritual retreat, but with more secrecy and drama.
And they were just wiped out. That's a huge loss.
It was a devastating blow to the continuity of those pagan traditions.
Wow.
It really marked a turning point in the relationship between Christianity and the older pre-Christian ways of understanding the world.
So ancient knowledge literally going up in flames.
Yeah, it's a recurring theme, unfortunately.
Yeah. Unfortunately.
But thankfully, some of the knowledge did manage to survive.
It did. How?
After Emperor Justinian issued edicts in 538 CE that basically outlawed paganism, this town, Hurin, located in what's now Turkey,
Okay.
it became a refuge for those seeking to preserve those ancient teachings.
Huron, a safe haven for forbidden knowledge in a world that's increasingly hostile to it.
That's right.
It's a powerful image.
It shows that even in the face of persecution, that desire to explore alternative paths, to hold on to those rejected pieces of knowledge, it persists.
Yeah.
And as we move into the Middle Ages, we're going to see that desire finding expression in new and intriguing ways.
So from the ashes of ancient mysteries to the hidden corners of medieval Europe, the quest for hidden knowledge continues.
It does.
Can't wait to see what awaits us in this next chapter of occult history.
It's a good one.
I bet it is.
Yeah. So as we move from that ancient world into the medieval period, it's really fascinating to see how occultism adapted, finding new expressions within, well, a predominantly Christian Europe.
So did everyone just suddenly trade in their, mystical texts for prayer books?
Not entirely, no.
Oh.
While the church definitely held significant power, our sources show that interest in magic, astrology, esoteric knowledge, it persisted.
Okay.
It kind of wove itself into the fabric of medieval life in some pretty unexpected ways.
So those wild herbs that just pop up
right
between the cracks of the pavement,
Yeah, that's a great analogy.
Okay.
And a perfect example is the figure of Merlin,
Merlin, like the wizard.
The one and only.
I thought he was just a legendary, a fictional character.
Well, the magical feats attributed to him, those are definitely embellished.
Yeah, okay.
But there's evidence to suggest that a figure named Merlin, a poet, possibly a druid, actually lived in 6th century Scotland.
Really?
Yeah, so maybe no flashy spells or talking dragons, but potentially a link between that ancient pagan wisdom and the world of medieval Christianity.
Wow. So Merlin, maybe not the wizard we think of, but still a possible historical figure.
Yeah, his image embodies that persistent fascination with the intersection of the seen and unseen worlds, blending that historical possibility with that magical lore.
Makes you wonder how much of what we dismiss as just myth or legend might have some basis in reality.
It really does.
Okay, but what about witchcraft? Wasn't the Middle Ages when the witch hunts really took off?
That's actually not entirely accurate.
Okay.
We have a source here, the Canon Episcopate.
Canon Episcopate, yeah.
A 9th century church document. It actually dismissed witchcraft as just mere fantasy, a product of the imagination.
Wait, the church dismissing witchcraft? That seems kind of counterintuitive given what we know about the witch trials later on.
It is a fascinating twist.
It is.
And that initial skepticism actually delayed the widespread persecution of witches. It wasn't until centuries later that the church, influenced by, well, various social and political factors, began to see witchcraft as a serious threat.
So they, accidentally hit the snooze button on the witch hunts.
You could say that.
Wow, talk about unintended consequences.
Right. And speaking of groups that faced persecution, the Knights Templar.
Okay, yeah, the Knights Templar.
Powerful order of warrior monks. They were suppressed in the 14th century.
What happened?
Well, their demise is shrouded in mystery.
Yep.
There were accusations of heresy.
The Knights Templar, those Crusader Knights with the mysterious symbols and rumored secret rituals, it all sounds like a plot of a blockbuster movie.
It does, doesn't it? Their sudden downfall, orchestrated by King Philip V of France, led to all these rumors about forbidden practices and hidden treasures, while a lot of the accusations were likely just fabricated to justify seizing their assets.
Right.
Their story fueled this speculation about secret knowledge and occult conspiracies that, honestly, persist to this day.
Wow.
Yeah.
Power, intrigue, and whispers of forbidden knowledge.
Exactly.
It's a recipe for enduring fascination, isn't it?
Yeah. It really is.
Yeah.
Whether or not they actually dabbled in occultism, the Templars became symbolic of that age-old struggle between those in power and those who possess knowledge that's deemed dangerous or subversive.
It's that rejected knowledge theme again, isn't it?
Is
the idea that certain types of knowledge are seen as a threat to the status quo.
Exactly. And the tragic fate of the Cathars illustrates this point even further.
The Cathars, okay.
They were a religious group with Gnostic leanings, and they were targeted during the Albigensian Crusade in the 13th century, accused of heresy and subjected to brutal persecution.
Another example of how knowledge and belief systems that challenge the dominant worldview were often met with violence and suppression.
Sadly, yes.
It seems like the Middle Ages were a pretty dangerous time to hold unorthodox views.
It was a time of great upheaval and often, intolerance. But even amidst all that darkness, we also see these sparks of intellectual curiosity, a renewed interest in ancient wisdom.
As we move into the Renaissance, we're going to see a fascinating revival of occultism, fueled by rediscovered texts and this thirst for knowledge that goes beyond the confines of church doctrine.
Ah, the Renaissance. A time of art, science, and apparently a resurgence of all things occult.
That's right.
So what sparked this revival? What happened?
Well, one key figure is Johannes Reuchlin.
Johannes Reuchlin.
He was a German scholar who, in the late 15th century, passionately defended the study of the Kabbalah.
Okay.
A Jewish mystical tradition that had been largely ignored by Christian scholars up to that point.
Kabbalah, that's all about hidden meanings in the Hebrew scriptures and mystical diagrams, right?
That's right.
What's a Christian scholar doing delving into Jewish mysticism?
Well, Reuchlin saw the Kabbalah as this source of profound wisdom, a way to understand the divine mysteries through a different lens.
And his defense of this rejected knowledge really helped bring those Kabbalistic ideas into wider circulation, influencing Christian occultists and contributing to that flourishing of Renaissance esotericism.
So Kabbalah was like this forbidden fruit that suddenly became irresistible to those Renaissance thinkers.
Exactly.
Okay.
And alongside the Kabbalah, there was another text that caught the attention of those Renaissance occultists.
Okay.
The Picatrix.
The Picatrix, okay.
A medieval grimoire or book of magic focused on harnessing the power of the stars.
The Picatrix. Sounds like something straight out of a Harry Potter book.
It does, doesn't it?
What kind of magic we're talking about here?
Astrological magic.
Yeah.
Specifically, the Picatrix provided instructions for creating talismans, potions, rituals, all aligned with planetary influences to achieve specific aims. You know, influencing others, attracting wealth and good fortune, things like that.
So like a cosmic DIY manual for manifesting your desires.
You could say that it reflects that enduring human fascination with, like, tapping into hidden forces to try and shape our lives.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And of course, no discussion of Renaissance occultism would be complete without mentioning alchemy.
Alchemy.
Right.
The quest to turn lead into gold.
Exactly.
Were people still chasing that elusive dream during the Renaissance?
Oh, absolutely. The search for the Philosopher's Stone, that legendary substance,
Right.
believed to hold the key to transmutation, it continued to captivate alchemists, and we even have a real-life example of alchemists who claim to have cracked the code.
Oh.
Nicholas and Perenelle Flamel.
Wait, the Flamels, weren't they mentioned in, like, the first Harry Potter book?
They were.
Wow.
J.K. Rowling clearly did her research.
She did.
Drawing inspiration from real figures in the history of alchemy.
That's cool.
Yeah, so the Flamels, they were this wealthy Parisian couple who, according to legend, not only discovered the Philosopher's Stone, but also used it to achieve immortality.
Wow, that's quite a story.
It is, and their story fueled speculation about the possibilities of alchemy and contributed to its enduring mystique.
So from ancient texts to astrological magic to alchemists claiming to have unlocked the secrets of immortality, the Renaissance was obviously fertile ground for occult exploration.
It was a very exciting time.
Yeah.
Oh, and there's one more development that I think you'll find really interesting.
Okay, what's that?
The creation of the tarot.
Wait, the tarot? Those cards used for fortune telling. What does that have to do with the Renaissance?
Believe it or not, the tarot was invented in 15th century Milan and not for divination.
Really?
It was intended as a way to add symbolic depth and complexity to card games.
So the tarot was originally just a way to spice up a game of cards.
That's right.
That's kind of a letdown.
Well, it might seem that way now, but their initial purpose was actually quite innovative.
Okay.
The cards, they were adorned with all these allegorical images that drew upon mythology, history, philosophy, adding layers of meaning to the game.
It was only later, influenced by occultists like Italia in the 18th century, that the tarot was really widely adopted as a divination tool.
So from a card game to a tool for exploring those hidden realms, the tarot has had quite a journey.
It has.
Yeah.
But sadly, amidst this flourishing of occult exploration, a much darker side of the Renaissance emerges.
Oh, okay.
The witch hunts.
Right. Yeah, the witch hunts. A truly dark chapter in human history.
It is.
What triggered this wave of fear and violence?
It was a complex convergence of factors, really.
Okay.
Including, like, social anxieties, religious fervor, political opportunism. And one of our sources points to the publication of the Malleus Maleficarum in 1486.
The Malleus Maleficarum, wasn't that like the witch hunter's handbook?
It was, unfortunately.
Right.
This text, written by two Dominican monks, spread so much misinformation about witchcraft, demonizing those accused and fueling this climate of fear and paranoia.
And it played a really significant role in solidifying the belief in this vast satanic conspiracy, justifying the torture and execution of countless people, mostly women, accused of practicing witchcraft.
It's a chilling reminder of how easily fear and ignorance can be manipulated to serve darker agendas.
It is.
And this persecution wasn't limited to just those accused of witchcraft, was it?
No, it wasn't. Even renowned figures like Paracelsus faced opposition and accusations of heresy.
Paracelsus, the guy who incorporated alchemy into medicine.
Yeah, that's him.
What was so controversial about that?
Well, Paracelsus believed that nature held the key to healing.
Okay.
And that alchemical principles could be applied to medicine. He advocated for using minerals and chemicals in treatments, challenging that traditional reliance on herbal remedies.
So he was like the maverick doctor of his time, blending ancient wisdom with cutting-edge science.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But his unorthodox methods and his very outspoken criticism of the medical establishment made him a target of suspicion.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, he was actually forced to flee Basel in 1526 after clashing with the authorities.
Another example of how those who dared to challenge that status quo, those who possess knowledge deemed too radical or too dangerous, they often faced persecution.
That's right.
It seems like the Renaissance, for all its advancements, was still a very precarious time to be an occultist.
It was a time of both great intellectual freedom and also intense social control. The struggle between accepted and rejected knowledge was playing out on a grand stage.
And as we move out of the Renaissance and into the Age of Reason, did that struggle intensify or subside? What happened?
Well, as science and logic gained prominence, occultism had to, it had to adapt, find new ways to express itself while navigating this more skeptical and often hostile intellectual landscape.
So did occultists have to trade their robes and rituals for lab coats and microscopes?
Not exactly, but it was definitely a time of both concealment and innovation.
Okay.
And as we delve into the 17th and 18th centuries, we'll see occultism weaving itself into the fabric of society in some really unexpected ways, influencing everything from the court of Queen Elizabeth I to the theories of renowned scientists.
Occultism in the halls of power and the scientific world.
You got it.
Sounds like we're about to uncover some fascinating secrets. So as we move into the 20th century, occultism is facing a world that's, increasingly dominated by science and reason.
Right.
So did that mean the end of magic and mystery, or did occultism, find a way to adapt?
It's remarkable how resilient these traditions really are. Rather than vanishing, occultism transformed.
Right.
It embraced new ideas, responded to those cultural shifts, and sometimes, confronted its own shadows.
So a bit like that old family recipe that gets tweaked and modernized with each generation.
Yeah.
But still retains its essential flavor.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A prime example of this adaptation is the emergence of Wicca.
Wicca.
Yeah.
The religion of witches.
That's right.
Didn't we talk about that already with Charles Godfrey Leland and his book Aradia?
Leland's work was definitely influential.
Okay.
But Wicca, as we know it today, really took shape in the mid-20th century, thanks in large part to Gerald Gardner.
Okay.
He was a British occultist who claimed to have been initiated into a, surviving coven of witches.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
So Gardner was like the Indiana Jones of witchcraft, uncovering these, ancient secrets and bringing them back to the modern world.
He certainly had a knack for weaving together different traditions.
He did.
Yeah, Gardner blended elements of folklore, ceremonial magic, and even Leland's Aradia to create a system of witchcraft that emphasized nature worship, reverence for the divine feminine, and ritual practices designed to, connect with the energies of the earth.
So it's like a blend of ancient wisdom and modern sensibilities.
Yeah.
A way to reclaim a connection to nature in this increasingly urbanized and technological world.
That's a great way to put it, and Wicca really resonated with a lot of the countercultural movements of the 1960s and 70s.
Okay.
Offering a spiritual path that embraced personal empowerment, ecological awareness, and a celebration of, those cyclical rhythms of nature.
It's amazing how occultism can, reflect the social and cultural changes of its time,
It really does.
So from like hidden covens to this burgeoning spiritual movement, Wicca really does represent a significant shift in how witchcraft was perceived and practiced.
Right.
What other developments shaped the occult landscape of the 20th century?
Well, alongside Wicca, we see a resurgence of interest in ley lines.
Ley lines.
Yeah.
Weren't those debunked as just a product of overactive imaginations back in the 1920s?
That's right. Alfred Watkins, a British businessman and an amateur archaeologist, he popularized the concept in 1921, claiming to have discovered a network of like straight tracks across the landscape, connecting prehistoric monuments, churches, other significant features.
Okay.
Yeah.
So he saw these ancient pathways as conduits for some kind of mystical energy.
Exactly. And while archaeologists have largely dismissed Watkins' theories, the idea of ley lines really resonated with occultists and New Agers.
Uh-huh.
They saw them as evidence of a hidden network of earth energies that could be tapped into for spiritual purposes.
So like an invisible web connecting sacred sites and power spots, like a mystical map just waiting to be deciphered.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And speaking of maps, astrology, that ancient art of reading the stars,
Right.
that also experienced a revival in the 20th century.
Astrology, I thought that was just like reading your daily horoscope in the newspaper.
Well, Dane Root here, who published The Astrology of Personality in 1936, he really kind of reinterpreted astrology, shifting the focus from prediction to more psychological insight and spiritual growth. He saw the planets and their movements as representing like archetypal energies that influence human consciousness and personal development.
So instead of telling you like what's going to happen, astrology became more of a tool for understanding yourself and your potential.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rudhere's work helped to elevate astrology beyond just mere fortune-telling, presenting it as a system for exploring the depths of the human psyche and understanding our place within that grand cosmic drama.
It's amazing how these ancient traditions can be reinterpreted and adapted for modern times.
It really is.
But amidst all this innovation and adaptation, didn't occultism also face like some challenges in the 20th century?
It did. The rise of skepticism, the growth of scientific materialism, the exposure of fraudulent psychics and mediums, all of that led to like increased scrutiny of occult claims.
So a kind of reality check for the world of magic and mystery.
You could say that, but even in the face of, criticism and scrutiny, occultism proved remarkably resilient.
Okay.
It continued to evolve, it branched out in new directions, and it engaged with the modern world in complex and often unexpected ways.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive.
We have.
From the mystical teachings of Pythagoras to the rise of Wicca,
Right.
the reinterpretation of astrology.
Uh-huh.
What are some of the like key takeaways we can glean from this journey through the history of Western occultism?
Well, one thing that really stands out to me is that persistent human desire to explore those unseen realms, to seek knowledge and meaning beyond the confines of just the ordinary world.
Right. It's like we have this innate curiosity about what lies beyond the veil, a yearning to connect with something larger than ourselves.
That's a beautiful way to put it, yeah. Another key takeaway is that occultism isn't a monolithic entity. It's a tapestry woven from diverse threads: magic, mysticism, philosophy, religion, folklore. And its expression and its impact have really varied depending on the context and the individuals involved.
So it's more about the journey than the destination.
I think so.
The ongoing quest to understand ourselves and the mysteries of the universe.
Exactly. And as we move further into the 21st century, the question remains, how will occultism continue to adapt and evolve? What new forms will it take? How will it continue to shape our understanding of ourselves and the world around us?
Those are some great questions.
They are big questions.
They are.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, I encourage you to continue exploring this fascinating world of hidden knowledge.
It is fascinating.
And rejected traditions.
Yeah.
You never know what insights and discoveries await you on your own journey.
That's the beauty of it.
It is.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thank you.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep the flame of curiosity burning bright.